Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are in the shop today, and today we're going to be starting part 3 of the 2650 swap, and that is going to be the fuel system. So for fuel rails, there's a whole bunch of options out there. There's eBay, there's Radium, there's DSX, there's Four, Dishworks has a rail. They're all in the like $400 to $600 price range, just kind of depending what you get. And for us, since we kind of have a custom fuel system already, I just decided to go with the rails off eBay. I believe it's a company called Fessler or Faster, something like that. I've got a couple of their fittings on the Corvette actually, and they've worked fine without issue. And I've got a buddy running the same fuel rail system on a LSA swapped C6. So should fit with the 2650 without issue. So as you guys can see, this is our billet fuel rail kit, and you know, there's lots of options here. Now this kit does have a crossover and a kind of 180 fitting, something like that. So I believe you attach it there, you attach your crossover, then your crossover goes around the blower. But I actually don't think we're gonna be using any of that system. And I say that because we have a external fuel pressure regulator with the A&A fuel system kit. So with that, we have a full custom fuel system. If you guys can see, this is the -10 feed coming up from the engine bay. There's a sump on the back of the tank from ECS. That's that billet block. Goes into a twin Holly pump, goes through the frame rail up and into the engine bay. So really all I need off that eBay kit is going to be the fuel line and the mounting system to bolt it onto the side of the supercharger. And I actually have one of the fuel lines that's going over to the passenger side rear of the rail. It's actually rubbing on the firewall, so it pretty much any NVH that the engine makes, and including injector sound, it's not really rubbing. It's sitting against the firewall. You can hear it, and that noise transfers right into the cabin of the car. So you can literally hear the injectors go, nee, 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 nee. You hear the injectors clicking off. So kind of an annoying sound that I hope I can eliminate with this new setup. So I got one of the fuel rails open, and as you guys can see, I mean, that's a clear shot right through that. I believe this is a -8 size. On the Corvette, we actually have -6 fuel lines, so I will have to get some reducers on here on the ends, but yeah, that shouldn't really prevent us from doing much. But anyway, so now that I've got this open, the LSA LS9 actually use these mounting tabs here that you bolt into. It's got like a little arm that will actually allow us to attach it to the side of the supercharger. All right, guys, we got the fuel rails mocked up and fully assembled. Well, as fully assembled as we can. And as you guys can see, the fuel rail slid in on the passenger side without issue. Slid right in, everything bolted down. Now the driver's side, everything's off by like 1/8 of an inch. And unfortunately, I can't move the fuel rail over any further than it needs to be. So, I mean, I'm not going to say whether it's Kong has a bad casting and it's drilled in the wrong spot. I'm not going to say that at all. It's probably the fuel rail itself. Unfortunately, there's not real much wiggle room with the brackets attaching to the fuel rail itself, but all I'm going to have to do is hog out. You guys can see how close that is. I'm just going to have to hog that out a little bit and maybe hog out a little bit more on the rear of the driver's side, but that shouldn't be a bigger deal. As you guys can see, we do have the 2650 installed. We have the LS9 lid mocked in place, but I do have the passenger side pretty much 100% installed. So we have our 1000cc injectors. You guys can see them. They're kind of hidden there back behind the rail. We've got the rail installed. You guys can see we have our -6 fitting in here with our hose going back beyond the brake booster and then up and over to the fuel pressure regulator on the front there. So we're good there. And on the other side of the fuel pressure regulator, you guys can see this blue fitting. That's this hose right here going, and this should be able to fit right there. So guys, I think we're golden on all the lines that we already have. A couple updates on the fuel system. I do need to do the final tightening of the fuel lines, but the fuel lines, injectors, spark plugs, the ignition system, that's all been plugged back in over on the passenger side. We're pretty much done on this side. And the first change on the driver's side was I wrapped the rear fuel line here. This was not covered. Put that Tech Flex loom on there. I also heat shrank it on the front. So that might knock down some of the rattling I was hearing. If not, I actually have another plan for that later. Then the other thing was, I think we may have showed this earlier, but we do have the Y block here. So we'll connect the back of the driver's fuel rail to this Y block, and this will be replaced with a high flow 90. So the way the new setup will work is we'll go from our A&A feed line right into our Y block into both rear of the fuel rails. So that's not changed all that much. And the other big change was I used to have this E85 flex fuel sensor on the feed. I have now moved that down to the return. And to save some room, how we're going to do that, we're actually going to use this vibrant hose fitting. It's a -8 ORB to -6AN female. And so that's going to plug right on top of the flex fuel sensor, as you guys can see. And then that flex fuel sensor plugged right into the return line from A&A. So not many modifications, just replacing this fitting right here. And so what that will do is that will save us from having to go from female to male, male back to female into the bottom of the Holley fuel pressure regulator. And you know that will eliminate another ½ inch whatever of fittings. So we got the fuel pressure regulator mounted. Now it's not final mounted. The nut is still a little bit loose. I'm going to leave that loose until we're 100% done. But I did get the fuel lines coming from the passenger front and the driver front. Those are both fed into the fuel pressure regulator. Then we do have the E85 sensor. You guys can see the top of it right there where my finger is. That is coming out the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator. Then the A&A return line is plugged into the bottom of that. Now, there is one thing I do need to worry about with that fuel return line coming out the bottom of there. It is very close to the frame. It is going underneath the steering column and back out. So it's got like an extra U shape in it. The line's not kinked, but it's almost close enough. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to raise the car up when I have to get back under there next time. And I think I'm just going to pull on it a little bit and maybe we can route it the way it was originally. Because basically, what we did was we moved the mounting of that fuel line down 3 inches. So now we're compressing that fuel return line where it originally was 3 inches longer. So, you know, it's basically kind of pushed down back to where it is. So if we have to, I think we should be able to snake that back more into the transmission tunnel because that's where that line was ran. And so yeah, that is something that you guys should be aware of. Make sure you don't have any major kinks on the line. So, all right guys, for the last bit of our fuel system, I actually got this radium banjo fitting, if that's what you guys want to call it. But basically it's the smallest 90 that they make on the market. And what this is going to do is suck into the back of the fuel rail. We'll have that 90 coming out to our pre-made hose 90. And then that's basically going to fit something like that. And then what we're going to do is basically take this line, shorten it. This is a PTFE line. So this is going to be your Frigola PTFE fitting with the little tulip in there. I think you guys might be able to see that. Yeah, it's a little stainless steel piece, or maybe it's aluminum. And yeah, so you'll basically put that into threads and then put the end fitting on, and this will connect into our Y block right here. So here is the completed fuel system. We got the Fessler fuel rails. We got this Fessler Y block over here. I also upgraded the fitting into the Y block as a fuel flow fitting, so that should be good. We got our top fitting. This is that line I've told you about earlier that we were going to shorten. So we've got that 90-degree radium fitting coming into another 90. That's going into this short hose right here. This is all PTFE. And yeah, so that's tied into our distribution block, and that's it. Oh, and the bottom line, that silver line, that's going to the back behind the supercharger and into the passenger side. All right, guys, so we got one more item to cross off the list, and that's going to be the fuel system. So the fittings, the adapters, and the lines. And so yeah, that's going to be one of the 3 remaining systems that I had left done. That's fuel. I still have cooling and wiring. I don't think I will have completed the cooling video, so we are working on that concurrently with this project, and we're going to do the wiring last because obviously I kind of want everything in place before we finish and modify the wiring harness for the alternator and all the other stuff we got to do. So yeah, if you guys like that video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see that cooling and the final wiring video, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, I will try to drop some links to the fuel rails, the fittings, and everything that we've used today because we've used a lot of parts. And I'll try to actually include the old lines that we used in the past because, like I said, I didn't have to order any new lines. We'll drop those links down below, and make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any contribution that you guys make on the website, they go right back into the channel, the shop, the projects, and hopefully help paying for some dyno tuning for this Corvette because we've got a lot of tuning to do. And actually, I need to go pick up a copy of HP Tuner. So thanks, guys. Have a great one.